Hey everybody, this is Ari in the air. Welcome back to the channel. Stoked you're here. Today, I want to share with you 3 flights that I've had this spring. A pair of 125Ks and a 235K. I also will give you some tips along the way, and I want to share with you some of the things that I'm celebrating this year as I feel my paragliding and personal development progressing. Okay, you ready? Here we go.
See ya. See ya.
Okay, kind of out of a cloud. On the left there is Newberry Crater that used to be a huge volcano and then erupted and then collapsed, and now it has 2 lakes in it. That's also Paulina Peak, where I ski and Eric died. Very near and dear place to me. As you can see, I'm flying over some mostly unlandable terrain, but there are small fire roads, and if I get low, I'll start just turning right and flying away from the forest to get better landing options. Also, you can tell that the footage is kind of screwed up because somehow the camera got knocked into like max lens mode or something, so it's a little wonky here, so bear with me. It was very cold. Spring is very cold. I have a hard time keeping my hands warm. I still, from this flight in particular, the top of my index finger is still a little funky, numb. I'm also just like, if you look at let's see the ground, when we get a good pic of the ground here. Okay, you can see that you can use the cloud shadows on the ground to kind of pick your route, as well as keeping an eye on the development, making sure it's not getting too big, things aren't really filling in, and here you can see in the middle of the screen that the clouds aren't getting too tall, and you can see on the bottom of the screen that they're not getting too wide and too connected. So following little clouds. So here, right here under this cursor that I can move, right here, I have made a low save. I literally was 100 meters off the ground here, came into like -5 meters a second sink and just kept pushing through it. The tip I will give you here, and this is something that I learned while I have been racing paragliders in Chelan for the last 5 years, where there's lots of dust devils, very fine powdery dust, is that when there's a big active dust devil, you probably don't want to run into it low, right? Like you don't go flying into a dust devil. That's kind of asking for an accident. But if there has been a big dust devil and now there is no dust devil there, that's actually a really good place to find lift. So there was a big dust devil in that field when I was like 10K away from it, and I kept flying and kept flying and kept flying, kept gliding, and I arrived and the dust devil was gone, but I kept pushing into that field, and sure enough, it worked, and I climbed out pretty strong. Here, just gobsmacking views of Mount Bachelor, the Three Sisters, Broken Top, Mount Jefferson, and Mount Hood right there. Just sick. Such a beautiful day. This is Sun River, Oregon, little resort town just south of Bend. Nice cloud development on this day, really super beautiful. A lot of this stuff is terrible landings. Like my plan here is to land on a road. The roads aren't all super paved or trodden, but I can walk, and my physical fitness is something that I take with me on cross-country flights to give me confidence so that I can pack that glider up. I can hike it 10 miles in 3 hours. I can hike a 70-pound kit 10 miles in 3 hours, and that lets me fly pretty much wherever the fuck I want to because I can walk out of there. So consider your fitness when you're flying cross country. Beeps, beeps, beeps. Keep it turning. This is on the XC Racer 2. I'm using the LiteStep Speedbar that my friend Josh Cohn makes. It's a game changer. 3-step carbon fiber foot plates and offsets. It's like unbelievable. LiteStep.us or something. Tell him I sent you, and he'll at least give me a high five. Okay, getting to cloud base here. I'm kind of one hand over the other. See, and this is like, okay, maybe this isn't scaled. At any rate, this is the next flight. So on that flight, I flew out into the mountains and then back into town. On this one, This is the 235 kilometer flight, and I make it to north of the Steens. And you can see, just like, look at the cloud base, just incredible flying conditions today. This is off Pine Mountain. Those green fields you see is Hampton, Oregon. Just a nice high cloud base. And here's the moment that I can celebrate, because at this point I've only been flying for an hour and a half or so. On the flight before that was 5.5 hours. And the thing is about this is that on both of these flights, I had launched with a bunch of expectations. I had friends in town who had come, Matt Hinsey and Evan Garcia, like two of the best American cross-country pilots. They'd come to my home site to fly with me here. And on both of these days, I had launched. And on the first day, I launched and I had a 5-minute flight and landed out. On the second day, I launched and had an 11-minute flight and landed at the bottom. In the spring tune-up, which was the emotional intelligence for paragliding course that I recently taught, I told everyone that the thing that I had been struggling with the previous year was that if I landed out, I would be overwhelmed with upset. Like, I would just be pissed and I would be so disappointed and so frustrated that it would crush me, and it would keep me from launching again. It'd keep me from trying again. I remember one day in particular, my girlfriend's like, hey, you want to try again? Like, I'll drive you back up there. And I was like, no, fuck it. Like, God, I'm just such an idiot. It's like not worth it. Oh, look, I'm eating an apple while flying a 2-liner on speed. It's okay. And I was just being, kicking my helmet and shit. And so this year I made the commitment to the men who had joined me in that course that this year I was going to relaunch when it was possible for me to relaunch. And I would fold my glider. If it wasn't possible for me to relaunch, I would fold my glider immediately. Instead of stewing and instead of kicking and screaming and stewing, I would just chop wood, carry water, or just like relaunch. So look, this flight, I flew 235 kilometers on a relaunch after like crushing disappointment. So it's totally possible to manage your emotions and to stay persistent and to keep playing the game even when it doesn't go your way the first time. I think that as I learn more and more and I'm a better cross-country pilot, I end up pointing my GoPro just at the sky for no reason. I end up being more resilient to the disappointment, because it really, like, paragliding is the most emotionally stimulating sport I've ever done, and it's crazy how it brings up things for me. Look at this. Just like, let's pause right here. Look at this. Like, this is just ideal. Cloud base at 13,000 feet. One thing that I dealt with on this day was that, you see, it's like a cloud and then a cloud downwind, and that's fine. But there's then kind of another cloud, but then there's kind of a blue hole there. So I end up having to zigzag a lot, left, right, crosswinding. But the moral of the story here is, if you can just stay in the air for 6.5 hours, I think that's how long this flight was. If you can stay in the air for 6.5 hours, you're going to make big distance. So more than trying to fly fast, more than trying to like race, more than trying to fly far, is just fly for a long time. So this is a good lesson for P4 pilots who are, learning to fly cross country and want to fly further. It's like, get your kit dialed so that you're comfortable in your harness, so that you can access your snacks, so that you can drink water, so that you can urinate. I use a windshield on the Empress 4. It keeps the wind off my face. It's really, like, I love it for that. So it's, you really just got to stay in the air. For me on this flight, I was like zigzagging. I was a little bit frustrated with all of my zigzagging, but in the end of the day, the wind picks up and I start making big distance in the evening, and it's like, that's just what you got to like survive through. So I was just going from cloud to cloud, like signs. Okay, let's pause for a second. This is looking west. This is looking the direction I came from. And this big watery expanse in front of me is called Mulhure Lake. It's one of like the biggest wildlife. It's not like a refuge or anything, but it's like where the birds migrate. They all like stop here on their way from Canada to Mexico. And so there's tons of birds, tons of water. Like the spring, look at all the water out there. On XC Skies, it always forecasted this as a big blue hole that doesn't work. But as you can see here, I'm going to fly directly over the middle of the lake. The lake is like 3 feet deep. So it's a big swampy thing, but the clouds were just over it, and it was developing and it was working. And so I ended up frisbeeing very patiently and just like really enjoying the scenery. Of course, I was by myself here, and Evan and Isaac had flown a more southerly route. They're the Steens there in the frame. Those are the big white mountains. They've flown to the south of that. We're looking south in this frame. And I ended up just staying to the north. They had gotten 45 minutes on me because I'd bombed out, right? Okay, and here we're on to our next flight. So the moral of the story in the last one is like, look, I bombed out. I relaunched 45 minutes behind them. They flew 255 kilometers and I flew 235 kilometers. So it's like, you just got to keep playing the game. It's not just on the day, but it's like your whole paragliding career. Like, it takes a long time. You really just like have to keep your emotions and your expectations and your morale up. Like, this has to do with your what's it called? That's such a funny thing to blank on. How you feel about yourself, your identity, what's the fucking word there? Put it in the comments if you figure it out. Okay, so this is the next flight. The camera is in a different setting, and it's a lot better here. So here, look at this. This is Prineville Reservoir. So happy to see it so full. It's been a drought for the last 5 years here in Central Oregon. There's Ed Conover, my friend and paragliding mentee. And today, Ed and I are just trying to stay in the sky, flying cross country. We're using all of the signs, like we're just zigzagging to cloud, from cloud to cloud to cloud, to just stay where we know it's going to work. Here we're probably 50K into the flight. And then here, I'll pause it for a second. We just flew past this lake here on the left, and you see there's a big blue hole between that spot that we were at and where we are now. We flew through, 6 meters a second sink across this blue hole to arrive to where we are. This is Prineville Reservoir, and you can see very beautiful view of it. This is arriving to what's called Pilot Butte, and I'll pause here as we see Pilot Butte. Pilot Butte is this peak here. It's got some radio towers on it, and there's this cloud up here that's developing. I climb out here. Ed and I split here. He goes towards Prineville. I send it over the Ochocos. As you can see, there's a cloud street over the Ochocos to the northeast from here. As I get over Pilot Butte, this cloud, the connection between this mountain and this cloud is like ferocious. I ended up stalling the glider, not in a collapse or anything, but just like crazy yawing, spinning thermal that I was weight shifted fully, pulling bunch of brake to the left, and the glider starts yawing to the right in this spinny thermal, and I just insist that we're going left, and it stalls. It was a little moment. Beautiful, though. The flying over the mountains got a bit strong and a bit punchy, and in the next clip, you're going to see that I started recording a little later than I should have. Obviously, I go paragliding, and I just like turn it on when it blows my mind. So I only bring you back like little highlight clips. But yeah, sick day so far. I made 125K on this one route. Error / still hoping for this dreamy flight where the southwest wind persists. Okay, so as you can see, I'm starting to fuzz here in the bottom of this cloud. This cloud, literally, I watched develop from its inception. I started climbing, and above me was blue, and then I saw a wisp start developing. As I started getting in more and more climb, it started getting stronger at the top of the climb, and there was like this column that was hanging down, like developing below me. And so I kept going, and I knew I was going to go to the north and the northeast here. So here, as I start to fuzz, I start setting my heading, and I stay on my heading really consistently. And once I can't see the ground, I'm always looking to the left, or I'm looking like straight down past my harness as the shortest distance from me to the ground so that I can see. And then once I actually white out, then I get on the speed bar, keep my heading using my instrumentation. Trust your instrumentation if you're in a cloud. stay on heading, stay on speed, and then I have just this mind-blowing moment right here. Little hole shows me where to go, and then just absolutely getting tunneled right here, just pitted through the cloud. I'm at like 13,600 feet. I've just taken a 4+ meter a second climb, of, 5,000-6,000 feet up, and then I pop out into the Mitchell Valley. This is on the far side of the Ochiko Pass. Incredibly beautiful place. That's the John Day fossil beds. There's like so much incredible nature to see right around here. The John Day River is just north of here. I'm elated. I stay on lots of speed. That's Black Butte and White Butte just in front, respectively. I end up flying into the valley, hoping that the southwest wind will persist. Someday it will, and I'll get that black swan day where just I get to keep going. But I run into northwest wind here and then land not far after this, probably 40 minutes after this. Having been a little distracted by my cell phone, trying to talk to Retrieve when I was low and following a relatively light climb, it was kind of the moment that put me on the ground, I think. But yeah, beautiful day. Let's zoom forward a little bit here. Yeah, these are the Ochikos, and I could continue flying west there, but it just, I wasn't really that inspired to do that. I've flown that way a number of times. So at any rate, that's my spring of flying. And so the thing I wanted to celebrate with you was that I have relaunched twice and gotten good cross-country flights on the relaunch, having dealt with my frustration and my disappointment and my expectations. And that's really like, I feel myself growing up. Like I feel myself becoming the person that I want to be through paragliding, which is so fucking beautiful. And that's the shtick that I've been trying to like tell you guys here. If you're looking to like develop yourself as a man and a paraglide pilot, then I'm pretty much the perfect coach for you. So there's a link in the description below for free one-on-one calls, and I'd love to hear where you're at and see if I can't advise you and see if there's an opportunity for us to work together. Okay? Yeah. I love paragliding. Love you guys. Hope that was helpful. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.